Jaroslav, shall we start? What do you think? I don't know.
I don't know who will start. Probably you have to.
Okay. So, hello everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this session about BIM and information management. And we have a very nice panel here, and we are lucky to have them with us today. So let's keep this session interactive. Please use Slido to ask questions. Also use Slido to comment and on the questions we are asking. And if you want to bring your own perspective to the question and so on, please make it as interactive as possible. Otherwise, please raise your hand. You can hand you the microphone and then interact with us. So let's start by maybe introducing the panelists, and let me ask them to introduce themselves and saying a few words about who they are, what they are working on, and things like that. Ilektra, shall we start with you? Yeah.
Of course. Thank you very much, Souheila, and thanks a lot for this amazing organization. I think we had already exciting discussions, and there are more to have ahead. So I'm Ilektra Papadaki. I'm team leader in GROW, responsible for policies for the construction ecosystem. There we find a lot of initiatives on digitalization that I'm going to refer to after, but also greening of construction, skills of construction, and other issues on resilience. My background is architecture engineering, and I'm very glad to see also this perspective, the policy perspective in construction.
Thank you. Thanks, Ilektra. Yaroslav, how about yourself?
Thank you. My name is Jaroslav Nechyba. My short CV you can see aside. So I just want to introduce my professional view and experience from which I look on the digital transformation of the construction industry, because my background is from the IT, and I started as developer and analytic, but have always been related to the construction industry. So during running my private business, I met and explored really hundreds of subjects, small and bigger ones, and learn a lots of lessons how the industry really works. And I was always trying to give them the out-of-the-box view, and trying to give them let's say, the helicopter view, to take them out of their silos and from their mindset, which is not in construction industry always open. So that's what I feel is my role and my experience.
Thanks, Jaroslav. Ricardo.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Riccardo Viaggi. I'm the General Secretary of CECE. That is the European Association of Construction Machinery Manufacturers. So through our national member associations, I represent in Brussels the companies that manufacture all machinery and equipment that is needed on construction job sites, from very big excavators to wheel loaders, concrete pumps, tower cranes, and all the attachments that are used in demolition and other specialized works. I think that for me the key word I would like to introduce in my CV, and why I'm here joining this panel, is the ecosystem. And this ecosystem approach is what makes CC part of the discussion on digitalization of construction.
Thank you. Thanks. Last but not least, Christophe.
Good morning. Christophe Sykes for the construction products industry. And like Ricardo, one of the numerous lobbyists in Brussels, working with the European Commission and European Parliament on all things related to construction. Congratulations to the Czech EU presidency for this amazing event. We start with products, and of course we talk about recyclability, circularity, but the digital word has been introduced in our language about a few decades ago, and we strive to bring our data in the system, and that's where I'll stop it now.
Thanks. Thank you all. Nice to see you here. So let's start by the basics, right? So how do you understand BIM? What is BIM for you, and why why is it important, and why it is vital for the industry, for the public procurers and public authorities to go that route? What are your views about that? Yeah, please. Yeah.
Perfect. So, for me, BIM is about digitally enabled collaboration, and it's about how we can make this ecosystem of construction collaborate and work together, not only when things are going well, but especially when things are going wrong. And we can solve problems on this basis. It is also a means to improve productivity. The projects nowadays are complex in so many senses, and without the use of technology and digital tools, we can really not deliver. And not only not deliver in terms of productivity, but also not deliver in terms of greening, in saving resources during construction and during operation, in saving resources, meaning man-hours, and also delivering very quickly construction projects for the citizens. And there comes the public sector, and it's very important to have the public sector involved. You saw the speeches this morning. I think we need public sector leadership in all of these topics. One side is because the public sector is a very big client for construction, because the biggest projects very often are public, infrastructure or building-wise. It is because the public sector has the responsibility to drive innovation. It is because the public sector is the one that will create a level playing field for everybody to digitalize.
Thank you. Thanks, Ilektra. Anybody wants to add? Yeah, Christoph, please.
Our world is full of acronyms, and BIM is one of them, and to the point that it's not standardized and it's understanding. Behind the acronym stands information management, and that's what we should all understand. Again, we say BIM, I say BIMs, and apologies to the known faces who've heard me say this 1,000 times. We did a head count of BIM systems in 27 member states a few years ago, and we stopped at 160 BIM systems. So again, as Jan said, we need standardized, we need an approach that fits all. When you have 160, and it's probably more today, how do we operate in this sort of labyrinth of initiatives?
Okay. Yeah, Jaroslav.
I definitely want to support Christoph, because for us was always just the acronym was information management. From 2018, never the modeling, because what we feel is the key. Be focused on the digital processes, not just for the result, because a lot of people are focusing for the 3D models, how to just deliver, but not focusing how to deliver, how to keep it updated, how to transfer to the operating phase, how to transmit those information from subject to subject. And all these things must be done by the digital processes, not by the emails or something like that. We have to keep all the information together. And the information, the second thing, which is related to the acronym, it's a lot of people still focusing about just the 3D models or digital models. They are not seeing that and still the majority of information are in the non-structured documents, and they are hidden in processes. Who decided, when decided, upon which sources they decided. That's very important information to giving the context. And when we can be able to deliver the context of the information at one place, we can smoothly and naturally link them together during the process. Because I hear a lot of time, I have a lot of work and I have to do BIM. Upon that. This is nonsense. That's not what we are looking for. We want to give the people more efficiency, less work smartly with the information, give the intuitive way how they can find the information, search the information, and we need to link them naturally on the fly as the information was created. That's everything which is mean to BIM for me. And about that I'm speaking all the time about the people. I'm not speaking about the technologies, about the softwares. I'm speaking about the people. So for me, the BIM 90% is about the people, because they are designing, they are still making the decisions, and the BIM can help them to make the decisions on the knowledge, not just intuitive, not just guessing, but the hard data linked together to the one context, and that's what BIM means to me. So,
yeah, nice points. Information management, workflow, and people, right? I mean,
yeah, it's linked together, people, technology, and processes, all together. Yeah. And if we will be able to find the way how to do that, so it's a combination of the technical things, social things inside each organization, because one key point is catch the information as soon as possible into the digital form. Because if we do it later on, it can be not really trusted, that information, because there are some delays. Somebody, you know how it works, somebody told this and this and this, and if the third one put it somewhere, I cannot be sure that this is the original information exactly from the beginning. So let's finding, and the construction industry have, from my point of view, a huge advantage, because almost everything already exists from the other industries. There's no need to create something special. Yeah, we just have to smartly use it and implementing. Jan have it in his presentation exactly, the implementation, adaptation of the standards, how to make it really use it in the practical day.
Okay, thanks, Jaroslav.
Yes. For us as machinery manufacturers, the role of the machine is, of course, also central in going beyond what we sometimes say, beyond BIM, in many ways, for BIM softwares to make machine-readable data that is directly uploaded on the machinery, and that allows the operator to in the future, but also in certain cases already now, just become controllers of certain operations that are becoming semi-autonomous or maybe even fully autonomous. So that's the digital transition for us, which is helped by BIM, but is definitely already happening on a lot of proprietary technology that my members already have developed years ago in telematics analysis. So there are, of course, lots of sensors on machines, and since they are very equipped with sensors on job sites, they are data aggregation tools that companies use on job sites in order to know how the process is going. And there are now many of our members who are developing other tools that add on to BIM in terms of costing, in terms of project monitoring, that are definitely the way we want to transition the digital operations on job sites.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Christophe?
Just reacting on Ricardo's message, because we had a private conversation about these autonomous machines. I wasn't quite sure why, and he made it very clear, and it's a situation that we see across the value chain, is lack of workers. And so if you don't know this, then you would think, oh, well, we're replacing man by machine. Well, no, there are no men, women available, so we have to have these machines. And behind that, there's also the health and safety issues that are reinforced by these digital tools.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Yeah, so of course it goes back to the old process of transitioning the industry towards a digital future, which in certain cases, not in Europe, but of course our industry is a global industry, so we take examples from other continents. There have been top-down approaches from governments to state very clearly, you have to make your machines autonomous because there are no operators around to use them anymore. We're not at that stage yet in Europe, but we're certainly, let's say, driving those innovations also with that idea in mind. There are some of my member companies who are already very clearly marketing their machines as autonomous or semi-autonomous tools that just need to be checked and controlled and not operated anymore.
Yeah, and what I feel is, Ricardo said, this is the flow information is the both sides. Yeah? One thing is the project coming to the machines and machine-readable formats, and they can work on that. But of course, we need the information from the machines, from the sensors, putting into the common data environment, again, machine-readable way, how so the other roles around the project can use them and can collaborate. Because one of the sentences about the acronym, because acronym again is just the information. We cannot forget that this is not the target. Yeah, the target is we want to efficient buildings, we want to live in them, safe bridges, safe tunnels, and whatever. So BIM is just the information. Yeah, and how the information can help that, we feel it's a way how to quickly, comprehensively, and guarantee to provide a correct, valid, up-to-date information for decision making for people and for the technology as well, because we have lots of technologies on that at the right time and the right place. So that's the definition how we see that the information can be very, very important for the construction industry.
So we have some questions on Slido, which is great because people interact. First one is very easy. Why Romania is not in the UBIM task group, and can I join? Obviously, please do. Check on the website, send us an email, and we will do that. Another one is fairly easy also. There's a lot of focus on buildings. Don't forget infrastructure, of course, because this is also a huge efficiency problem. And obviously, we don't forget about infrastructures. I mean, we need to deal both with buildings and infrastructures, and they interact with each other, right? Please, Ricardo.
If I may, I think that's a key point, and that's where, at least our experience is that a lot more has been done in digitalizing infrastructure job sites at this stage. Yep. Certainly because we know that the role of machines on very large infrastructure job sites is even higher than in vertical construction, let alone in renovation. So that's definitely one of the lessons learned, is that things have progressed well and quickly, more quickly than in other building areas with infrastructure. And we are part now of an Horizon Europe funded project called InfraRob to completely make completely autonomous the operations for infrastructure management, infrastructure maintenance, and also infrastructure development, new infrastructure development. And the goal of the project is to make a completely autonomous paver, so the very big machine that lays the asphalt, and not only makes it completely autonomous, but directly lays down sensors on the asphalt, which are going to be useful for smart roads in the future and in certain areas in the present. Yeah. So I think that the focus on infrastructure should really not be lost.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Also, we have a question for specifically for Christophe. Can you please give examples of BIM systems you talked about?
Well, as I said, we stopped 160 to name them, and this is not my day job, but I wouldn't. But I remember I live and work in Belgium. Belgium alone had about 4 or 5 systems, and every university said my BIM is more BIM than the other BIM. You know, so there's this competition, and basically, I met some very interesting people last night at the dinner who come from different sectors, but all linked to construction. What I'm missing is we are in the same universe, but on different planets. Yet still, we all talk about construction, whether it's infrastructure, buildings, whatever. And we enter from different angles where really we should harness the information that's there, freely available, and feed it into the system. And not sort of go from, I'm building a system and the information will feed into it. And one thing that's not been mentioned is lots of times standard, but not SEN, and SEN Technical Committee 442, which is dedicated to digital construction and BIM in particular. And I invite you to check their work and bring it back to products. You know, they are looking at the data that producers have to deliver to the market to be allowed onto the market, and to see if that information can be digitalized and fed into systems. So I saw a question about, it was something about carbon and life cycle. If you see any producer, they will have an EPD, Environmental Product Declaration, which is voluntary at the moment. I think Catherine has left the room. We are under the revision, under the Czech presidency. Say hello to my colleagues from the Czech presidency, to revise the construction products regulation. In that revision, which might be decades away, for implementation into the market, we would have to deliver environmental information. So again, that answers your question about carbon, but it's not just about carbon, it's about water efficiency and many, many other things. So it's data's there, and we should start from data, next step, as Jaroslav said, and not top down. That's opening another debate.
If I may add to the Christoph, I will not be fearing about how many systems. From my point of view, it could be thousands of them. Yeah, that's I feel that the construction industry should want to. But the issue, the situation right now is that there are no common philosophy, there are no common architecture. But that's what Jan mentioned very well, and what is they are doing in Estonia. They are not trying to create some huge giant system. They are going step by step on same agreed philosophy and agreement, and that's why they are successful. And the other example, for example, again, to show that it's a lot of these things already exist. Banking system, SWIFT system. Nobody have idea that all banks all over the world should use one system. That's a nonsense. Yeah? But they have agreed on a SWIFT how they will change the information, how they will be ruling these things, and it works. And it's completely changed the industry 20, 30 years ago. So why don't just adapt? Yeah, that's one of the things. There's a really low knowledge about the standards and how to use them. Yeah, everybody is hunting to inventing, to be the hero, to invent something giantly. Yeah, but many of those standards are already existing. It's general, and it's waiting for the adoption to the specific task in a specific software and specific solution. And we need them just connect them together to share the information, to transmit information from one solution for analyze this and analyze that, and the result can be shared, the information from machines, just put them together. That's the challenge from my point of view.
You and I agree on the concept and the philosophy, Jaroslav. The issue is, imagine you're producing materials, or you're an investor. Your business is to produce or to invest. And you want to enter the digital world of construction, and you have, let's imagine we stick to that number of 160 systems. You're not equipped to decide which one to buy into, because the word is buy. You have to, it doesn't come for free. So the issue is, whilst we accept and we agree on the philosophy, is from an external prospect, how do you enter into this new dimension without any guidance or mandatory requirements from your government? And that is the stumbling block, or the obstacle for me is, how do you pick and choose and move forward? Yeah. Because this is not your daily business.
Yeah, I fully agree on that, and that's the role of the European Commission or national government to put just the framework, just the basic rule, and help to really adopt those standards, because the industry needs, and especially software industry needs the standards, because if they are standardized, my market is much bigger then. Yeah, because that will be the turning point from my point of view to improving the tools together and creating them working together, not just trying to be the one hero which push all the market just for themselves. Yeah,
maybe we can, we have some questions on Slido, and maybe we can ask Ilektra to give her opinion about the role of the European Commission. And there's a question also: should there be a BIM mandate from the EU regarding this motivation of stakeholders? So what are your views on that, Ilektra?
Thank you very much for the question. I think there was also a very interesting question before that I was asking what the country should do as a first step, and I would like to pick it up from there and go there, what we can do at the European level. The last years, we have followed the process of introducing BIM and digital collaboration in general in several governments. And one thing I want to say also, because I saw it in the comments there, is that very often it's a process driven by ministries in charge of infrastructure. So certainly to the member of the audience that mentioned this, and Ricardo also brought it up, I think it's very clear across the EU that we are always talking about buildings and infrastructure. Now, for countries that start now, I think it is very important that they come in touch with their peers in the European level. That is number one. Second of all, they identify their local and external stakeholders, so who are the actors inside the country that can work on this process and accelerate the process, including companies, of course, including small and medium enterprises, including providers of training and academia. And the last is to set a global vision. We are speaking about BIM, but I think the keynote of Jan was excellent. We need to keep our eyes to all the systems, all the processes, many things that need to be done in order to speak about digitalization of the built environment. Now, our role. You're very well aware that the beginning of the collaboration between the European Commission and the EU BIM Task Group, a very fruitful collaboration from our side, certainly, is the Public Procurement Directive of 2014. That is a very mild suggestion, if I may call it this way, to introduce digital tools when we are procuring for construction. With this as a starting point, we have done from our side our best to support bottom-up approaches, collaboration, exchange of information, and to allow policymakers across the EU to decide together what is the best approach, the European approach for BIM, and also what fits best in their local countries. And from 2014 to now 2022, it's been a long time, we have seen, of course, countries leading the way, countries following, very good approaches, different approaches, and we were positively surprised with countries that did nothing for many years, coming and asking for support from the European Commission, from the reform projects that we are running, with the national reform plans now, and asking support and help and calling for collaboration in order to set national strategies, in order to start. And they are doing very well. They have to do fast now, it's a bit late, but they are doing very well. So we need to be careful also what can be our role. I think it's also a bit late to say revise the Public Procurement Directive, because the landscape is very complex. Many things have happened. There is progress in different stages. We need to see a little bit what needs to be done in addition. What are the gaps in educational systems, maybe, the gaps with skills that were already mentioned, gaps with standardization, other issues with public procurement, because it's not so simple. So for this reason, we will start a new work stream in the beginning of next year to see again what is the state of play across the EU. What is the level of adoption in different areas, and propose to member states how they can take this forward.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Christophe?
Just to support what Ilektra said, but also reality check. There's 5 of us here, and you've seen our CVs. There's 100 and 120 of you. We don't know which sector you're from, but looking at the questions, I would guess mostly IT digital. Reality check is the following. In the construction industry, I'd say, and I'm looking at Fernando from the SMEs Association, over 90% across the EU are SMEs, correct? Yes. So 90% of contractors are SMEs. More than 90% of the work done in Europe is renovation, okay? Now, put those things together, and I'm looking at the questions about asset managers and things. There are no asset managers for more than 90% of the renovation work. Asset managers, they work on new build, of which there's probably 3%, and that was before the COVID crisis and before the war in the Ukraine. So indeed, if you're looking at it from that perspective, it's not going fast enough. The reality on the market is different. And yes, we have to bring IT and IT solutions to the system, but the reality is there are market realities that we have to face. And just to end on a positive note about the Commission, or on the Commission, those of you who work closely with the Commission might have heard of something called levels. And if you've not, do check it out. It's a sustainability assessment for buildings that was developed by the Commission with the whole industry. And more recently, they've now engaged in a digital format of this assessment system. So you see that the Commission, when they are well advised, they listen to people like you and us, and they try and move it forward. So that is one step that sort of adds a little bit of water to Ilektra's wheel.
Yeah. Thanks, Christophe, and thanks for pointing out the importance of renovation. Obviously, this is a major challenge, and how do digitalization interact with this challenge about renovation? What can we imagine as a solution? I mean, are we talking about scanning? Are you talking about preparing in factory-made renovation solutions, things like that? What are your views on that? Or whoever wants to pick it up.
I'll just throw another number. Across the EU, if we are to reach the climate target for 2050, 15 minutes. We should renovate a housing unit across the EU every 15 minutes, not 50, 15. And if you understand that, that's completely impractical. How do you add another layer of digitalization to this? Yeah. Okay, so the reality is we should at least be able to trace and say in that particular dwelling, this change was brought in. If it requires a permit, and then we look to Estonia to guide the EU maybe, but apart from that, for renovation, it's again, it's back to SMEs and small jobs.
Yeah.
I can add just the remarks about the regulations and how to write the regulation, and Jan mentioned that very well in his presentation, because the regulations are written in the Word, and in wording, and written by the lawyers. And what is very important for us, that those requirements put in the regulations can be digitized. Yeah, that's very important, because the wording of the regulation must be somehow be algorithmic, must be done by the machine-readable automatic processes. Yeah, that's very important to connect those. That's experience from our side, from the Czech activities. Yeah, that's very important to connect these two different universes. Yeah, because people are writing the legislation, and they are lawyers and familiar in their domain, but they need to be open to know that that wording will be transformed into the machine-readable processes. But without that, it happened the break, and it will not be possible to step forward. Yeah, that's my experience, and you are doing in the European Commission a great job about CPR and start listening to how to digitize these things and put it directly into the regulation, so hopefully helping the industry have that one common turning point which they can start developing their solutions. And in that case, it doesn't matter if there will be hundreds of, they can compete, they can have fair competition between them. They can be cheaper solutions for the SMEs, big solutions for the big companies. That's how the market should work. But they will have the common point from the.
We have a comment on Slido about that, so just I wanted to underline it. So we have, millions of cars exist, and they all share the same, standard for using tires and fuel and so on. So you can as you said, you can buy a Ferrari or Porsche or a Renault, but you will use the standards kind of solution, and standards are important.
Yeah, but there's only 4 car manufacturers in Europe, so that's an easy one.
That's another problem. Yeah, that's true. That's true. We have another question about the benefits of using BIM and for stakeholders, return on investment, cost savings, time savings. Please check the EU BIM task group website. You will find there a handbook about cost-benefit analysis for using BIM in public projects, and you will have a lot of answers in this handbook that is very easy to read and to understand. We have a question here about the Czech state not focusing only on approval and management. Needs to be realistic and based on open BIM. Does it ring a bell, Jaroslav?
I feel that our activities are really heavily focused on and based on the open BIM and open standards, because almost every outcome is based on some EN standards. So we are really not trying to reinvent the wheel here. So I'm not familiar what is going on that question. And we really want to be realistic from the public sector, because the public sector is one of the biggest clients on the market. So if we have some activities, we have some way to help them interacting with the market standardized way, under principles, of course, because we are respecting and always was respecting that there are different organizations, small organizations, big organizations, small projects, big projects, and so on and so on. So it's really hard to find the red line, how to put the regulations and how to work with the public sector to be efficient and let the market freely compete around that. That was what we are trying to do.
Thank you.
There's a question about the SMEs and the help from the Commission.
Yeah,
can you?
I'm touching on that.
There's a training session being organised.
Yeah, I'm trying to group this, but because a lot of expectation, of course, around the role of the European Commission. So obviously about the SMEs and also how we can improve the use by public authorities also. So Ilektra.
Yes, of course. We touched upon SMEs a bit. I think it's specifically relevant in the area of building renovation, because maybe there we see even more how important micro enterprises are, and they are even more involved. I want to mention, and we have EBC even in the audience, the BIM for N project. I think it was very interesting to see how SMEs can use BIM in specific projects of building renovation. They are not enormous projects, they are housing projects of specific size, and it's a very good precedent to see that it can be done and how it can be done. From our side, we saw that we need to produce practical tools for SMEs. We cannot keep the discussion in the higher level. So this is why we launched a month ago the platform Digital Construction. Is a website, digitalconstruction.eceurope.eu, and there you can find a self-assessment tool for managers or people in charge of construction SMEs. They can answer some questions and see how they score digitally, how mature they are in terms of their business processes, in the use of technologies, in the plan, if there is any, to digitalize. And based on the answers, they are getting a handbook on steps to take further. We cannot reach from Brussels every SME and microenterprise, but there are people closer to them. There are clusters, there are digital innovation hubs, there are supporting centers, there are many things depending on the country. And we are trying to propose some of these to SMEs to reach to. And another part of this project is the trainings. So there are already, and there will be more trainings on the ground for SMEs to set up their digital strategy, to see more things on BIM, on Internet of Things, 3D printing, 3D scanning, other technologies that are revolutionizing the sector right now and can have applications, specific applications, sometimes renovation or in design or in building or in constructing. So this is a bit on SMEs, and of course there are horizontal initiatives that are running on supporting them them. There are on skills horizontal initiatives, but also we have the Pact for Skills that is always worth a mention, and the blueprint for sectoral collaboration. It's very important to look into the competencies of the people in the companies, but also the competencies of the people in the public sector. Yeah. Also a nice question, how we can go beyond the rigidity of the public sector. Well, I think that we can all admit to ourselves that every change is difficult, and when things are changing and you have to find new ways of working, it's difficult. It's always easier to continue doing things in one way, but public sector employees are also people, are also working, so I think that maybe in some countries there could be more effort allocated to inform them, to train them. We have done it in the past with the EU BIM test group. We are planning to do it with permits in a future work stream, so I think it is important to look into this as well.
Thanks, Ilektra. Yeah, from the public authorities' perspective. Now, let's get back to the private part. I have a questions for Ricardo and then for Christophe. So, Ricardo, question about the use of IoT and for automated construction. Should they be linked directly to the 3D? Do you have any views on that?
Well, we have lots of IoTs and tools and sensors on machines, and of course each machine has its own centralized way of managing the data, and then everything is connected to a cloud, which sometimes is owned by the job site coordinator, and in certain cases is built. The structure is built by the manufacturer of the machine itself. So all this is made autonomous thanks to, of course, artificial intelligence and big data analysis, which brings me back to what we consider the end game. The end game is really data and how to share data. And in your presentation, Souheila, it was reminded that the High-Level Construction Forum meeting on digital looked at the potential of legislation in making data sharing easier. We believe that one of the roles of the European Commission is to make legislation that is really fit for purpose and is really, let's say, innovation friendly. We believe that the Data Act that is still being discussed by Council and Parliament is a first step in that direction, with unfortunately some devil which is in the details that may not be that innovation-friendly legislation that DG Connect, the European Commission, thought it would be, because with obligations and not facilitation of data sharing, with obligation of data sharing by default, by design, free of charge, not only to the data holder or the machinery user, but also to a third party that the machinery user may identify, we're actually making virtually non-existent the benefit of a machinery manufacturer to really invest in that data aggregating, data collecting tools that are inserted on the machines. So that's another role which I really would like to highlight from the legislators. It can, of course, accompany, it can, of course, help, train, fund, but it also has to legislate properly.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Souheila, could I add, just to correct what was said, that legislation is written by lawyers, and the benefit of democracy, it's actually legislation is written by politicians. And so it doesn't always make it easy to understand and to agree on the meanings of legislation. And one current example is the revision of EPBD, another acronym, Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, which is being revised for the 4th time already, hopefully to make it better. But the purpose is to deliver a energy performance certificate. But in the current revision, this is not foreseen in a digital format that would then feed into any system. So again, you see, we are revising legislation today for crucial reasons, and obviously the energy crisis is, you know, it's hitting us all very hard, but yet legislation is not forward-looking in terms of digitalization, and that is just one example, and I could give you others.
I definitely agree. Yeah, a lot of room for improvement there. Yeah. Christoph, there's a question about construction product manufacturers. How can they structure their product data? Are there any standards available? What's the best way to do that?
So first thing is manufacturers, because there was a question about how do we join the BIM journey? Well, for us, any digital solution is a tool towards something else. It is not the target for industry. Yeah. We are there to deliver products to the market that are energy efficient, water efficient, whatever that you want for the products. This is what we deliver, whether it's machinery or construction products. The manufacturer, it has obligations, and I recognize one face from the manufacturing industry. I don't know how many of you are familiar with CE marking, and raise of hands, CE marking, does that? Oh, well, more than I thought. If you want to sell, place on the market is the legal term, any construction products, all those wonderful things surrounding us today, then you have to deliver a declaration of performance. That is a set of characteristics for your product with a value. And that is defined in the standard that is specific to that sector. Getting very technical, but basically you're giving information out, and the current legal text says you can deliver it in a digital format. And luckily, those involved in legislation stopped there. They didn't specify. So what's happening now is we're delivering this information in a PDF. Well, it's digital, isn't it? But do you have access to the information? Well, not really. And it has value. So what we are seeing is the clever operators get this information that they get for free, put it in a database, and then sell it on, which is, it's a quick profit, but it's not the way it should be going. So on one hand, we have the information, the data that we have to deliver to be able to operate in the single market. And on the other hand, by 10 years, we already foresaw the need to deliver environmental information, and I already mentioned EPDs. This, again, is delivered to the client. It is standardized in the sense that there is a European standard for the delivery or the writing of this EPD. We are looking at making it digital on an ISO standard. So things are being structured, and for us really is we deliver all this information to the client, and we are looking for tools to help us make it more efficient in the transmission of the information. We are not there to build the system from top down because that is not the way it works. Okay, so we are looking for solutions and partners in that sort of journey towards the digital transmission. Data templates is the easy one, machine readable. I mean, these are the keywords that we always use. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sure. And maybe talking about the standards that are already there, and again, linking to the work of the TC 442, yeah, about that, obviously.
Yeah, if I just may add for Giuseppe some numbers about the standards, because there are, again, we are in the situation standards already exist, just waiting for the adoption. So those numbers are 23386, 23387, and 17412. Those are the key standards which manufacturer is really key part of it, because they have lots of information. They have to put it in a structure and let the market use it. Yeah, so that's those numbers, that's very important.
Yeah, I have a question here from Fernando about education training in Czech Republic. So, any specific actions going there on dedicated for SMEs?
Yes, of course, education is one of the key activities under our strategy. What we did is focusing mostly at the first step for the public sector, because we feel that there is a very big need to put on the market right requirements and rightly understand how to require information, how to require BIM, not just putting in the call for the tender, I want a BIM, what it is. nothing, basically nothing. So we were and we are right now focusing on the public sector to educate him, understanding why they need the information, what they have to do with the information after they delivered, because that's the key point, how to understand it, and that's the starting point for education from our side. And in Czech Republic is running another education programs from the Building SMART Czech chapter. There's running some education. So we want to support it and influence the education market to do some training for the SMEs and for the rest of the supply chain, because to be honest, we have some capacity, some money to be able to invest on that. So again, the national strategy was focused mainly on the public sector.
Okay, thanks. We have a question here about joining the high-level construction forum for companies creating CDEs and BIM tools. I think it's open, right? So
Exactly. One of our own innovations with the pandemic was making all of these platforms available to everyone. So all meetings of the High-Level Construction Forum, the plenaries and the thematic meetings are online, and in our database now we have 800 stakeholders. So anyone is welcome.
In a practical way, they just connect to the website and register, right?
Yes, there is a registration form.
Okay, great. Thank you. I have a question about the European levels and how does it link to ISO 19650?
Well, I've got an easy answer because I just received an invitation to a webinar, and I'll read you the dates. 1st of December from 10 till 12, and it's online, and one of the points is answer your questions. So Leos just signed up for the event, and you asked a question directly to Ilektra's colleague from DG Environment.
Okay. So a question I didn't really understand, but I'm trying anyway. So digitalization is only advanced tool for complex design process, which is, I mean, not always the case, but okay. Can you simply articulate the relationship between digitalization and invention or innovation, I suppose?
We were thinking about this one because we saw it on the screen. We weren't too sure about invention. We have innovative products. Again, they're also CE marked. I think I've said it too many times. Digital is a tool towards something else. Research, R&D in industries, whether it's mine or Ricardo's, is, you don't research, you don't develop things, then you're out of business pretty soon. So I don't think we should mix the two. There's R&D and digitalization comes afterward as a tools towards disseminating information about your products, but also selling more products. I don't see any hurdles. Do you?
And I think that this idea of the tool, digitalization being a tool, really leads us back very nicely to the opening statement of Katarina, that this is, I mean, it's no mistake, it's no chance that the Commission calls them the twin transitions. And we believe that digital and sustainability are really just two sides of the same coin, in the sense that we in machinery industry, in the machinery manufacturing, we believe that digitalization has a clear, strong push in making the industry more sustainable. We even highlighted this, the role of machinery in decarbonizing construction activity can be visualized in 4 different elements. And the way the machine is manufactured is only one of those elements. The 2 core elements, the way you organize a job site, so process, and the way you operate a job site, so operation, are 2 huge efficiencies that you can work on, which means less emissions, means less carbon, that can be hugely digitalized in ways that we have not seen before. And that are, for certain contractors, of course the larger ones, they're now the norm. They're not innovations, they're not inventions, they're not the moon, they are the norm. The way you choose the right machines for the right job site by, for example, renting some of them instead of buying some of them. You use the right machine for the right job. You don't use a 25-ton excavator to lift things around on a job site. You use a telescopic handler to lift things around a job site. And then the way you operate that specific piece of machinery can be hugely digitalized. As I said, some of the norms is already semi-autonomous machines. And so that's really the key. I mean, a few concrete examples on how digital supports sustainability.
That brings a question in my mind about the current geopolitical situation and the difficulties we see in the construction sector about, missing components and the supply chain and, all the problems that we are facing. And I was wondering, will that boost, in fact, the digitalization of the construction sector, or will it be a problem? What are your views on that?
It's both a problem and a boost. There's no doubt that it is a problem. There's no doubt that it is a problem because microchips are very largely used on machines, and when microchips are not available for everybody, they're not available for the car industry, which is much a bigger buyer than off-road, than construction equipment. So that's definitely a problem. On the other hand, it's definitely also a tool because you need to be more efficient in order to use less resources, such as less machinery. And we are seeing, it's not very good news for us to sell new machinery, but we're seeing the market of used machine. The market of used machine in Europe is huge, of course. But we're seeing used machines being looked for, being searched, that also have connectivity tools and digital tools that were before almost difficult to consider. So also in the used market, buyers are looking for smart machines. They're not just looking for a very normal standard machine lifting or excavating. They're looking for smart connected machines also on the used market. And that's of course the reason, a consequence of the lack of components and the very long delivery times that we have, that our members have. Now, if you get an order for a machine in Europe, you can very easily say that the machine will be ready in 12 months. And that's, of course, something that we don't want to say and we don't want to continue saying, but that's the reality right now. And that's a little bit the reality that Katarina witnessed in Bauma 2 weeks ago. She referred to that in her opening statement. Yes, there is vitality in the industry. Yes, there are solutions, but there are also some concerns, which are mainly driven by the geopolitical concerns you mentioned.
Yeah.
If I may,
please
get back to that question at the beginning of that question about just the BIM is about the design, and that's from my point of view, let's say the typical, let's say bubble view of the information management, because we have to have in count that we are speaking about the whole life cycle of the building. So we are speaking about decades of the years, so usually 70, 100 years. Was mentioned in Prague, we have here buildings for hundreds of years here. And there are lots of information around those buildings, around the operation, renovation, and so on and so on. So I feel it's needs to be really look on this acronym again, so we can get in loop at the beginning what is BIM, and BIM is definitely not just for the design. It's much, much more, because design in those 100 years, we are speaking 3 years, 4 years, or something like that, of what we are doing with information in the rest of that time. And those information are changed, they need to be used, and they need to be analyzed. So that's very important to be focused on.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent question, and I would also like to say something after the two speakers. I think with the last 3 years, we passed from a phase, it is nice to have digitalization, to it's essential to have digitalization. And all the challenges and challenging trends that we observed before are now key to resolve. It is key to resolve circular economy in construction and recycling of materials and components and machinery, of course. It is key to manage better our buildings and stop wasting resources, stop wasting energy. So when we're speaking about the management of enormous buildings, and sometimes again comes the public sector back, because the public sector is managing large buildings and infrastructure, we need to consider now even more the use of digital tools and BIM in the management of these infrastructures and buildings, for them to not waste any resources. Now we are in this point in time.
Yeah, definitely. Christoph, yeah.
It's a little difficult to burst this positive energy bubble that I've been feeling all day, but I've got to bring you back to market reality. Whilst again, Ilektra, we fully subscribe to the philosophy. The reality on the market is the following: if it's cheaper, then you buy the cheaper version. Whether it's European or Chinese, you buy the cheaper version. Ricardo's already mentioned the delay in delivery. Some of my members purchase his machinery, and where only 2 years ago it was a 3 months delivery time, it's now over a year. Across the EU and across product industries, the situation is very different. We have sectors where the production sites have been closed, and actually met a Norwegian CEO who made his whole team redundant, and he was just selling the energy from his plant. And he said, if I was selling products, I'd be making a loss. By just selling the energy, I'm making a profit. Which, of course, is a completely change of market, but still. We have industries where the order books are full for years to come, but the energy crisis is making it so that if they make it past Christmas, they'll be lucky. And everybody knows that 2023 is going to be a very difficult year.
Yep.
So in the next quarter, we may see a lot of closures and redundancy. Of course, I drag you down deeper in depression. Once you lose your job, your experts, your employees, they go elsewhere. And we know the market will pick up again, you never get these people back because they've gone elsewhere. You look at all the troubles we had with flying on airlines in this summer because the staff had gone. And then there are other industries where production is still all right, energy prices they can manage, but with the change of prices that you mentioned, Souheila, the clients have over-purchased and they've stocked the products. So now we are managing to produce, but there are no orders left. So that is the reality today. So buy the cheapest version, close to bankruptcy or lack of purchase, and every economist, if there are any in the room, will tell you next year, hold on tight because it's going to be a rough ride.
Complicated times, definitely, yeah. Okay, so I see that Michael posted the links to the platforms that Ilektra talked about. Thank you, Michael. We have a question about classification in Czech Republic and the how does it interact with BIM? But I think the question can be, general.
I can answer, of course, from our perspective. I don't know if who put the question is from the Czech Republic or from outside.
I don't know, Miss.
Yeah, that's hard to guess. But basically, on the field of the classification system, we did a great job in 2018. We did the analysis about the classification system all over the Europe and world, and it was very useful for the other countries as well. It has lots of translation to different languages, and we found the solution. We start operating on that, and we joined the CCI collaboration organization with Estonia and with the other countries, and we publish the classification system. It's freely public available. It's translated into the Czech language, in English as well. So we have the classification system. What we need to do is start to piloting, validating, creating the feedbacks for the improvements, so we can take it on the international level and share it with our partners, the solution. So, and that classification system is heavily based on the international standard ISO and IEC standards. So it's again nothing invented just for the Czech market. So it's available. Yeah. I can pass on the slide or the web link as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're pointing down the public tender part, right?
No, the last one about I love the hashtag set standards free.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to go into that because, I mean...
We should.
We should, I mean, yeah. And the standardization committees have their own, you know, a kind of a business model, so...
Well, yeah, but this is a perfect example of a business model that will be challenged by digitalization. And again, you know, do we stick? Somebody wrote old business models.
Yeah.
Do we stick to the old ones, or do we look forward to another system?
Plus the fact that when you wonder why SMEs don't use standards and why standards are not widely, you know, used by the industry. I mean, this is not an easy way to do it.
Be careful in your statement, because for manufacturing, for factory production control, part of the test is, do you have your standard in a paper form in your factory? So every factory of every company needs to have a paper version of every standard for that production line, for those products. So I would disagree with your statement.
Different kinds of SMEs, definitely, yeah. Okay, I didn't see in the slide any questions about that, but is cybersecurity? Yeah, please.
Yeah.
I would like to react to the last question, which was not a question. It's a very, very correct statement, which I subscribe fully to, and it's something that we, as machinery manufacturers, definitely see, because when we sell some machines, maybe for a specific job, we also get, I mean, our members get the tender specification from the contractor. So I need to bid for this job. I need to do this job. What are the machines that you can sell me, rent to me, lease to me? And we know that the blocking factor is very, very often that a lot of public authorities still tender out at the lowest price, and that's unacceptable, because not just because it blocks real digitalization. Again, that's a tool that's unacceptable, because it's the worst deal for us as taxpayers. It's really why we have campaigned in my previous capacities at EBC on making the economically most advantageous standard the rule, and we see all across Europe that this is never the norm, and it's always the exception. And so that's also why it was mentioned by Katarina, it was mentioned by Ilektra now, the training of public authorities, most of all in charge of public tendering, is a key blocking factor to a lot of let's say, innovations in the industry. And then digitalization is one of the, let's say, side effects of that suboptimal behavior, of those suboptimal behaviors.
Yeah, I want to just support what Ricardo said. That's why we are focusing on the education of the public sector, to put the right requirements into the tenders, and asking for reasonable, realistic deliverables which supply chain can offer to them. And if I may, Souheila answered the question about the IFC for schema, because it's related with the classification system as well. I want to again answer. You have the answer in Jan's slides as well, because if you remember those slides, and he had there 3 bricks which they need to put together. They have IFC, they have the CTGML, and the CCI is the classification system. That is the result of our knowledge, our experience, that the IFC schema, it's not classification system it is. So it's needed to be something above that, something common classes which are organizing the information for all these participants, not just for the designers and then just about the 3D models. We need to organize a lot more information for a lot more actors which are involved in the whole information management. So that's the role for the classification system. And for the classification system, we have different standards already existing on the ISO level and on the EN level. So the CCI is following them. So that's the different bricks. So it's not competition between the CCI or IFC. We need to find a common mapping and common way how to use both of them. We need both of them.
Yeah, thanks, Jaroslav. I didn't see a mention of that in these slide questions, but is cybersecurity an issue for your partners? I mean, funny story. I mean, at least a story to tell. Bouygues, which is a major French construction company, the servers of the company were blocked by pirates asking for a ransom, and that's, I mean, beyond the ransom part, I mean, they also leaked a lot of the data from servers. So you wonder what kind of use you're going to get from this data. So it raises a lot of questions about what level of security we need, and does it apply to all at the same level, or is it dependent on the project? Or what are your views on that?
I think so. Cybersecurity and cyber resilience are key concepts. We, as machine manufacturers, are very directly impacted by them. We know it's one of our responsibility to build cyber resilient machines and cyber resilient data infrastructure. Because again, a machine can be hacked, and as you said, what did they do by hacking Bouygues? We don't know. But when you hack a 25-ton excavator that can go around and dig not exactly where it should, but can potentially be used in very malicious ways, that's definitely bad news. So the Cyber Resilience Act that is now being discussed, and the way we have to build cyber resilient machines is indeed a huge part of the game. It will be part, or it may be part of the CE marking procedures for machinery in the future, but it's definite, and so it may actually become an additional source of costs, of compliance, but it's definitely something that we cannot escape. We believe that we look at that from the machinery point of view, and then of course all companies can be the target of a cyber attack.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Two examples amongst the membership, and I won't name the company. A world-leading manufacturer was hacked. Every single PC of every single employee across the world was blocked. Production lines were stopped, and this lasted for over a week. So the impact is huge, not just on the company, the value chains, delivery time. Amongst the membership, we also have lock manufacturers, not just your door lock, but banks, airports, and of course for them it's a crucial aspect of your R&D projects, and but so it is less talked about, but it's taken as a given, because without that you don't operate.
Absolutely. That brings us to the end of the session. Thank you all for a wonderful session and very, very interesting. Please join me in giving our panelists a hand. And let's meet in the lunch break. Thank you again. Thanks.